Welcome to Satsang. Happy holidays. Good to see you. Do you notice how challenging it can be to just be where you are? Sometimes that seems like it can be like the hardest thing to do. So the first thing to do is to become aware when you're not where you are. The moment that you start to bring this into your waking practice, your practice throughout your day. I'm going to bring some lights up here. There you are. Okay. Too much? Too much? Okay. You begin to notice how truly rare it is that you are actually in the moment that you're in. Even now, even in this moment, as I'm addressing it, your mind is oscillating in and out of this moment. Right? Yeah. This is such an interesting realization, because you're going to find that when you are present in the moment that you're in, that you don't have a problem. Like right now in this moment, the only thing that's happening in your life is you're sitting here in this room having this conversation with me. That's the only thing that's happening. So any other thoughts, any other things related to anything else that are not related to this moment are distracting you from the moment. What people are not is present. Why is that so important? Hey, we have a Melissa Hoops sighting. How you doing, Hoops? Good to see you. Haven't seen her in a while. When we suffer, do you notice that what you suffer are the thoughts in your mind? This is very, very important, because one of the mistakes that we make is that we somehow think that life is the problem. Oh, my life this, oh, my life that, oh, this person this, oh, this person that. I need it to be this way, I need it to be that way. And we spend our time, trying to arrange life a certain way. Which is fine. You can work consciously to create whatever life that you want for yourself. But the problem is that we're waiting for life to be a certain way, so that we can say, okay, when I get here, then I'll be happy. If I had it this way, then I would be happy. If I only had this, then I would be happy. Do you experience this? Does it work? Because once you get there, you realize there's no there, right? There's only here. There's only now. Are you comfortable? Is it cold still? Too cold? Yeah? Would you close that? I think it's just getting a little too cold in here. These damn Florida winters, you know, the hell that we go through as Floridians. It's, you know, it's mildly uncomfortable. I mean, yeah, for me, the hotter the better. So, you know, I kind of wanted the door closed. I'm just blaming it on you. Now remember, you know, that Satsang now, you know, this is a group mentoring session, okay? This is your opportunity to pick my brain. Let me explain to you that, you know, I lived for 10 years by myself in New Jersey in a small 2-room apartment on Rutgers campus, which I really loved. And then, you know, almost 15 years here in Florida by myself. You know, I basically have been in hermitage for 25 years. Not exactly on purpose. I always thought that I would be married. I thought that that would happen, but for some reason that was always kind of held away from me. And I have spent that time very, very interested in suffering, in my mind and how my mind works, how I was creating suffering for myself. This is just a subject that I have been extraordinarily interested in. And it started out very innocently that there were things that I was suffering coming out of your typical lovingly dysfunctional Italian childhood, where I got the strap, where I got the wooden spoon, you know, and all kinds of other interesting traditions that were handed down. And I came out of my, you know, teenage years in a bit of a tailspin. I was diagnosed with dysthymia, which is a mild form of chronic depression. I was put on Paxil for 6 months, which I really didn't like. And I began to look into it. This was sort of around when the internet was even starting. There was more information available. I started to eat right. I started to exercise. I stopped drinking alcohol. You know, there was no more dysthymia. And I said, wow, this is cool. I really want to teach people this. So I became a personal trainer because exercise was a big, big part of the way that I managed my inner self. I realized that in order to train people's bodies, I had to train their minds. And I began to become more and more interested in the mind. I had these wonderful codependent issues that were pretty strong that I had to work through. And I have spent my life working through pain, working through my own suffering, understanding my own suffering. So you don't need 25 years. You have me. I didn't have a me. I had to study a lot of complicated things for a long period of time so that I can sit here with you and explain them in a way that is simple and makes sense. That's my gift. My gift is to take the complicated and make it simple. I studied a lot of Vajrayana Buddhism, and you want to talk about complicated. Good, I'll make it simple for you. Would you hand Sean the mic back? Make sure it's turned on. Is it on? Is the green light on?
Okay.
Tell me your name.
Maria.
Maria. I have a sister named Maria.
No,
Yeah.
that's Italian too.
Yes, a little bit, huh?
How am I going to question I know mentally, like I know, like I need to exercise,
Mm-hmm.
and I like exercising,
Mm-hmm.
but I keep falling into that groundhog day of getting up, having coffee, my kitties. I don't get motivated, or I don't know what it is to exercise.
Mm.
So there's like this other person
Mm-hmm.
that wants to exercise, but doesn't exercise.
Yes. There's this other person, right? We talk about that a lot in here. I've got to get myself to exercise. There's a me that really wants to exercise, and then there's a myself that just won't cooperate, right? So are there two of you? It's a very interesting thing to notice. You know, that there's an I that says, I've got to get myself to do something. What do you think that that pertains to? Yeah. Do you have an idea what the I is and what the myself is? What's the difference?
Well, I remember you saying at the beach, the I is the witness, or the witness,
Yeah.
and the myself is that the ego, myself,
Mm.
likes the comforts,
Mhm.
likes the routine, it's just the easiness of things until
Mhm.
you start feeling it and
Mhm.
go, oh, I gotta
Yeah.
change it up here. It's a laziness, really.
Let me explain to you that this is the difference between like a spiritual mentor and a psychologist. You know, psychology really has some validity on a certain level. So much of our behavior is so predictable, you know, and psychology has done so many tests and so much research that a lot of times they can tell you this is what you're going to do next, and this is what you're going to do next, and this is what you're going to do next, and there you are doing it going, my God, they were so right, you know, because they've studied so many people and we're so similar. But what psychology does, though, it deals with everything on the level of mind, okay? In here, we go beyond mind. So what's happening is that the self realizes that this is the house that I live in, and I want it to be as pristine as possible, okay? But the mind and the conditioning of the mind is what makes it difficult. Do you notice that sometimes when you start exercising, and you start exercising every day, you're like, God, this is easy. Why wasn't I doing this the whole time? I feel so good. Why wasn't I doing this, right? And then when you stop, you can't get started again. You know, when I was a trainer, I would recommend to people, just train a little bit every day. Because it's easier to train every day than it is to train 3 days a week. Why would that be? Well, because you're training your mind that we're training today no matter what. Every day is always today. You see? So what's happening is, you start to, anybody that's exercised and says, okay, I'm going to train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then Monday comes. Well, I'm tired and it's raining out. And I'm going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. And then Tuesday comes and you're like, well, I don't want to, let me just do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. And, next thing you know, it just doesn't work. This points to a very interesting aspect of mind. That you can't get your mind to do what you want it to do. Your own mind. Shouldn't your own mind be part of the team? Shouldn't your own mind be cooperating? Why are you not getting up every day and making your life as awesome as it can be? That was a question I asked myself over and over again. Like, why can I move mountains for other people, but for myself I can't get off the couch? And it really is the conditioned mind that doesn't cooperate. We are such slaves to our conditioning, and we don't even realize it. It's so easy to see someone else's conditioning, but to see your own conditioning is really, really hard. I dated the same girl twice in a row. Different name, same girl. And swore the second time that I wasn't doing it. And I was like, oh my God, I did it again. I can't believe it. And I swore the whole time I wasn't. The mind is wired like a computer. Your computer is not wired for exercise. Yet. The mind is plastic. The mind can be, when you're sitting in meditation and you're developing a ritualistic practice every day, you're wiring that into your mind. So, your ritualistic practice right now is to not exercise. So it's easy for you to get up and not exercise, and you're playing with the cats and doing whatever, you know, and that's just kind of what you do. You are habituated into that. You have to break that habit. You have to understand how your mind works and how to wire your mind. You wire your mind through ritualistic habituation. Did you ever see the Zen cards that I've made? Before you go, I have some in my briefcase I can give you. And it's a list of the things that I want to do every day that create the causes and conditions for my mind to be peaceful. It's on one side of one business card. Nobody can do it. Remember in March, was it in March? We said, okay, we're all going to do our Zen list every day for the month of March. Yeah, you didn't even remember. There you go, right? 10 days later, everybody was out. You can't even get up and do the things that you want to do. That's how much your mind has got you by the throat, and you don't realize it. So what I suggest in those moments is that it's not your body that's difficult to train. That's really easy. I mean, it's so ridiculously easy. You know, like, if I lose a couple pounds, or, you know, I start getting a little bit, because I'm a trainer, you know, like for me, it's simple for me. But people look at me and say, wow, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I got up and I exercised every day, and I just ate healthy food, drank a lot of water. That's it. It's not hard. I mean, it's so not hard that it's silly. But what's hard is your mind. That's what's hard. Like, who here doesn't want to be in the best shape of their life? Right? But who here is? A lot of times what the mind does to keep us in that lazy place is it makes a big mountain out of something. You know? It's like, oh, exercise, you know. Well, I got to go buy some gear, you know what I mean? I need a new lunchbox, and I got to get this, and I got to get that. And, you know, just work out. Just shut up and work out. 20 minutes a day. You'll start feeling differently. And what starts to happen is that as your body responds to exercise, your body will start to want it more and more and more. You know, you'll notice that, you know, that when you train, in the next couple days, you kind of want to work out again. Your body's kind of itching for it, you know? You know what I'm talking about? When you're laying around, you just want to lay around more. So you have to choose. There are days that I'll train for 10 minutes. Just because I want to train my mind. Those days are not so much about my body. They're about my mind. And I totally recommend, you know, we've talked about this Zen list in the past, where, you know, you should be able to do your Zen list in like 10 to 15 minutes at a minimum. Meditate for 2 minutes, exercise for 8 minutes, you know, have a healthy breakfast, make your bed, straighten up your house, and be done with it. Why? So we can remove this time, like the excuse is, oh, I don't have the time. So we're removing that. And even when you do it for a short period of time, you are wiring your mind. And when your mind gets wired for exercise, it just happens. And don't you feel so much better when you exercise? Don't you feel great? Doesn't it do all the things that you want and desire, and like you have higher energy, you're in a better mood. You know, it's the best antidepressant medication on the planet. So important to exercise. I love to exercise. Not when I'm on the Stairmaster and it's 20, 30 minutes and I'm sweating, or I'm on the bike and I'm doing 10 miles on the bike and it's like 40 minutes and I'm like, you know, it hurts. But the difference between something like that, like something that we use for a quick fix, like whatever, like a drug or a drink or something, it gives us an immediate gratification and then an extended period of suffering, right? Exercise is the opposite of that. It gives you a short period of suffering and then an extended period of peace. And so, you know, sometimes I really even enjoy the training, but what I really enjoy is how I feel when I'm done the rest of the day. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard me say, the first 3 hours of the day are blocked out for me. From 7 to 10 a.m., that's my time to take care of my mind and body. Then the rest of the world can have me from 10 o'clock till however long they need me. But every day, those first 3 hours are mine. To train, I go jump in the pool, I meditate by the water, you know. I come back, I make my breakfast, steel cut oats, bananas, pecans. I make my juices for the day. Imagine what it feels like to start the day that way. And why wouldn't you? If you're someone who works for yourself particularly and can manage your own time, which some of us can, some of us can't, and if you can't though, you compress it. You squeeze it down into the time that you can. Not that you rush through it, you just, you know, you just scale it down. To 10 minutes, even if it's just 10 minutes, you will feel the effects of that throughout the whole day. And you'll be so glad you did it. And you'll feel good and you'll have higher energy. You'll be more peaceful. Your mood will be better. So the short answer is you have to develop a morning ritual. It's very helpful to write it down and just check it off. Something cathartic about scratching something off a list, right? And so if you make your list, you know, your own personal Zen list, and it's meant to be customized for you, and you start doing your mornings like that, and it's written down, why do you write it down? Why is it so important to write it down? To remember it, and you don't have to think when you wake up. You know how you wake up and you don't even realize where you are sometimes, you know, and you're like trying to remember who you are and where you are, and, you know, and then you start lollygagging around the house and you're looking around and you're playing with the cat and you're looking out the window and you go, oh, it's a pretty day. And like, and you're wasting all this time that you could be using taking care of yourself. Now here's the difference. I wake up, I grab my Zen list and I go, okay, first thing, make the bed. Bed's made, you know? All right, next thing, say my affirmations. All right, take a shower, brush my teeth. Okay. Go work out. Okay. Meditate. You see what I mean? When you put structure to your rituals, they happen. Because the difference between me and most other people is that I have a practice and I do it. There's nothing special about me. I just have learned over many years and have set up rituals that I do the things that bring me present into the moment. I do the things that create the causes and conditions for my mind to be peaceful. I eat very well. I take supplements, you know. I drink plenty of water. I know how to create the causes and conditions for my mind to be peaceful. You know, you think about a plant, and you know, you want to put fertilizer and you want to take care of it. You wouldn't go pouring a beer in your plant, would you? Why? Because you love your plant. But yourself, you know, you know? You know, the more beautiful environment you create for the plant, the more beautifully the plant grows, right? Well, what environment are you in? What kind of food do you eat? Do you drink plenty of water? Are you taking probiotics? Are you taking multivitamins? Are you eating regularly? Because a big mistake people make is that they don't eat enough. And this all affects your state of mind. Very, very important. And it just always goes back to the mind. What the mind is creating, how the mind is conditioned, right? The things that I suffered in my 20s, I laugh at now. I couldn't possibly suffer the things that I suffered in my 20s, although I suffered them severely. Because my mind is not wired that way anymore. My mind will not suffer those things anymore. It's the strangest thing. Your mind is everything. Your mind is so important. And it's most important that you realize that you are not your mind. Because when you are believing that you are your mind, then whatever the mind is doing is driving the bus. But when you realize that you are the one that is aware of what the mind is doing, now you're starting to be in a powerful place. If at the very least you can see that the mind is not doing what you want it to do, that's an important place to be. You might not be able to do anything about it in the moment, but you say, okay, at least you have that separation. You know what I mean? Because then the jig is up. Then you're like, okay, I can see that what my mind is doing. I can't quite affect it right now, but at least I can see it. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you get a little fed up. You know what I mean? It's like, look, the only thing that I'm concerned with in Satsang, do you know why we're here? Why are we here? To have a fun life. That's it. You know, the reason that at times life is not fun is because we don't understand our minds, we don't work with our minds, we don't create the causes and conditions for fun life. And the mind can make life very unenjoyable at times. And it's your own mind. And the problem is that is happening unconsciously, right? Because we know that we would never consciously create that stuff for ourselves. There's no way. So we have to bring consciousness to it. We have to shine the light of our consciousness onto what is going on in our mind, which means just being aware of it. Don't worry right now so much about what to do about it. Just be aware that, yeah, you know, what is my mind doing? I don't know. But I'm watching it. I'm watching it get upset. I'm watching it be affected by emotions and feelings in my body. I'm watching how when I'm having painful feelings, how that's affecting my perceiving and my being. And maybe right now I can't do anything about it, but that's okay. Just be aware of it. We are different people when we are in pain. We think differently, we perceive differently, We want that pain off of us. We want that internal discomfort gone. That's why people go to bars. That's why people, you drink a beer and you feel like, wow, you feel relief, all that, because you just short-circuited your brain, and you think, wow, this is my solution. But the problem is that descends thought. We want to transcend thought. We want to go beyond thought. Descending thought, now you still have to come up back through thought. But when you go beyond thought, you leave that all behind. Do you understand what I mean by that? There's going to be a quiz, so don't lie to me. So where you at? What's going on in your mind right now? What are you thinking that you habitually don't want to grab the microphone and talk about? It's fun to talk about it. And don't be embarrassed. Everybody has these these questions. Everybody has experienced extraordinarily uncomfortable states inside. Everybody is on a regular basis feeling weird inside. It's not just you. It's not just me. So let's talk about it. The reason I want you to talk about it is because I really want to know where you're at so that I can speak to where you're at. I want to hear your questions. I want to know what you don't understand. All right, finally talk somebody into it. Go ahead, Maria.
The whole exercise thing, so I think I don't even know if even thinking is the thought, going beyond the thought, is when you're beyond thought, then is that what they mean? You're witnessing thought. And then right? Can you?
I think I understand your question.
Yeah. Maybe I need to understand beyond thought.
Yeah. So the question is, generally speaking, what does it mean to be beyond thought? If the thoughts in your mind stop for 10 seconds, do you cease to exist? No. The thoughts disappear, but you don't disappear, right? True? So are thoughts mandatory? Do you require thoughts to exist? Yet we've had this incessant addiction to thinking. Now, when we believe that we are identified as the thoughts in our mind, that the thoughts are us, if the thoughts disappear, then we disappear, right? And so when there are moments of quiet in the mind, typically we go looking for them. We go looking for the thoughts, right? If it gets too quiet in your mind, you're like, I gotta think about something. There's another reason for that. And this is the reason that many people struggle to meditate. Is that the mind becomes very noisy and very active in a lot of people to push down their pain. We all have pain. We were born into a very unconscious world that is suffering tremendously, And we were taught how to remain unconscious and suffer tremendously by experts. And so even as children, parents did the best that they could. It's no easy job. But all they could do was be with us on a level of awareness that they were on. And typically that's not a high level of awareness, right? So we have kind of been conditioned into excessive, almost addictive thinking, consuming knowledge, being consumed about the future, which is only thoughts. And our minds are trained, and we believe ourselves to be these thoughts, and our minds are trained to think and 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 think. And it's just one big long train that hasn't stopped as far back as you can remember. That voice in your head. Now when that voice in the head, when pain comes, a lot of times there can be a lot of chatter because we don't want to feel the pain. We don't want to experience the pain. We want it off of us. So it's sort of the mind's way of going blah, 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 you know what I mean? And it kind of numbs or soothes the pain. When your mind gets quiet and there's some pain there, the pain starts coming up. When the pain starts coming up, you get scared. You get uncomfortable. You don't want to experience it. You want to push it away. That's why you can't meditate. Because when you're getting present in meditation, you're getting present to everything. When your mind gets quiet and just the feeling is there, now what do I do with it? Well, most people don't know. So they just go running back up into their head and running around to avoid this pain that's coming up. Many of us have tremendous pain. Tremendous. When I was a kid, I got hit by a strap. I got hit by a wooden spoon. It was really a very confusing message to hear, I love you so much. What is your mind supposed to do with that? This is the person that loves me? What are the people that don't like me going to do, And listen, my parents did that stuff unconsciously. They were just doing what they knew, what they were conditioned habitually to do. This is not about, I love my parents. I have a great friendship with my parents now. When I was a teenager, it was a little bit of a bumpy road. So, when we transcend mind, you have to realize, a great question to ask yourself is, do I have to be thinking all the time? Like, is that required for me to be here on this planet? Now, then why am I doing it? Because I don't really particularly enjoy it. A lot of the thoughts that go through my head are annoying, aggravating thoughts. What is there beyond thought? What is there when thoughts stop? Here, right? The moment. But what is even aware of now? You see, the mind can't understand the self. The moment that you start making a concept out of the self, you've lost it. The self is that which is aware of the concept of self even. or the concept of anything. Does that make sense? So, the timeless, formless self that is aware of all things outside you and is aware of all things inside you. You see, it's very easy to see outside you, right? You look at the lamp and you realize, I am the observer of the lamp. I bring my attention to the lamp. I experience the lamp. Is the lamp me? Is the lamp you? No, right? How do you know the lamp's not you? Because you can observe it and you are the observer, right? You are the observer. It is the observed. If it can be observed, can it be you? If it can be observed, can it be you? Tell me, Maria. In the microphone, please. We want to record this.
If it can be observed, yeah. If you're the observer, and anything can be observed by the observer, then.
Well, so
anybody. I mean, she can be observer of me, and I can be observer of her, but that doesn't make me. I can observe myself. So, that's a good question. I mean, I would say, yeah, it's me, because everything's a reflection of me. But that's the way I see it. But it doesn't mean I'm that thing. But it is a part of me.
Mm-hmm. If it can be observed, and you are the observer, can it be you?
Did you put your hand up instead of the stick? Because the stick is outside of you.
Well, no, I'm using the stick specifically.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Right? See, this is the question, the most important question in spirituality. When I say I, what am I pointing to? Am I pointing to the mind? Am I pointing to the body? Am I pointing to the thoughts in the mind? You see, if something can be observed, how can it be you if you are the observer of it? There is the observer and the observed. You see? And so when you look outside yourself, it's very easy to see. Don't get lost in the metaphoric, we're all one and one consciousness and all this other stuff. That will just confuse you, okay? Because the point that I'm making is much more sharp and much more important, okay? And not metaphoric at all. This is very feet on the ground stuff. I am the observer of the orchid. The orchid is not me because I can observe it. You see? The observer and the observed. The observer and the observed. The stick is the body observed. Are the thoughts observed? And observed by what? When you realize this, you will know, you will have experienced what I am pointing you to. The body is observed by the self. If you lose an arm, there's your arm. If you lose a leg, you lose a leg. If I give you my kidney, now are you me or no? All of this is observed. And we have been falsely believing ourselves to be these things. This is phenomenal. This is literally not the same body it was physically even 7 years ago. Every cell in your body is replaced, and many of them several times in those 7 years. The difficulty for a spiritual teacher is to try to explain to you in concepts that is which is not conceptual. This is why it's so important to have a meditation practice every day, because when you experience what I'm pointing you to, then you go, oh my gosh, that's what he means. Please, use the microphone, please. And tell me your name.
Claudine.
Claudine.
So to use the body metaphor for a moment, so if I observe my hand, it's really my interpretation of a concept, of a construct.
It's not even that. I mean, that's very much mind. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Yeah.
so you can label it hand, but is it a hand? In China they call it something else. In Germany they call it something else, right? So it can be a mental construct of the hand, right?
Yep.
But even what is aware of the mental construct of the hand? You see what I mean? There is something that is aware that I'm even making a mental construct. There's something earlier than even the mental construct.
Yes. Okay. I get it.
It is profound, you know, that what we are believing ourselves to be and what we are, for most people, are very different things. And you can look back on your life and see evidence of this. You are not here to believe anything. Let's be really clear about this. You are not here to believe anything that I say. All right? This is not about belief, and I don't want you to believe. I want you to hold what I'm pointing you to up to what you're experiencing to see if it helps you make more sense of what you're experiencing. Because even your idea of yourself has changed constantly over the years. Who you think you are today and who you thought you were a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years, 20 years, completely different. Your idea of who you are is completely unstable. Completely unstable. Which one are you? The body, constantly changing. Which one are you? Are you 5-year-old you, 10-year-old you, 30-year-old you? But what has not changed? That which is aware of all the changes. The challenge is that we have for our whole lives believed ourselves to be Tom, you know? And when you realize that can't be true, there ensues like an identity crisis. Oh my God, you feel like you're disappearing. But the you that never really existed anyway, the false you, the mind-made you, the ego, that is what's disappearing. That is what's dissolving. But you don't know what you are without it, so you hang on and hang on and hang on to it. Does that make sense? That you hang on to this psychological formation, this idea that you have of who you are. That idea is based in thoughts in your mind. So when you transcend the mind, when you go beyond thoughts and concepts, you are even going beyond the thought and concept of yourself. And this is where it gets to be very shaky ground for some people. And you can see why. Because you're losing your identity. Your mind-made identity. Please.
Got me worked up.
All right. If you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, I'm doing my job.
Okay, so you said the mind identity we lose as we become more aware of ourselves, and that identity of the mind. Is that so? I've had I've been a seeker pretty much all my life, and I understood. Could you explain then, when we let go of the ego mind or identity by the ego, we still have to like, how do you understand the self? So there's still an ego. Then I heard the big ego, and then there's the little ego. So there's still, until you die, it can be completely get out of this body, you have to identify yourself in some way.
That only happens on the level of mind. So when you're having ego and this ego and superego and this ego understanding, this is the problem. I want you all to hear this. This is the problem that most of you are dealing with, is that you are trying to understand or transcend the mind on the level of mind. And so you are, that will only satisfy you for a moment. You will find that you'll be like, oh, I get it, and then it just falls apart again, because you are trying to transcend concepts with concepts. Listen, keep after me. This is what I want. All the rest of you, pay attention to this.
Okay, I hear that. But while I live on this planet, it seems so unavoidable. Like, it's like I'm not trying to live to avoid those concepts, but it's just always in my awareness. I mean, it's always, there's my mom. That's going to be my mom. That's my sister. That's my kids. That's my friend. That's my car.
Yes, on the level of form, we have to interact psychologically that way. But, it's not that we just go blank, And sometimes, like, what always ensues in this part of the conversation is a conversation about, like, nihilism and nothing matters and all this other stuff. That's not what I'm saying. All right? The mind is a tool for the self, the awareness, to use. The self becomes identified as the tool. The self becomes identified as the mind. I am these thoughts in the mind. You see? And then the mind can throw you around like an 800-pound gorilla. It's been said, I forget who said it, that I'll paraphrase it, use my own words, that the mind is a like a tyrannical leader but a humble servant. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen it in your own life. We're having this conversation because of the things that the mind has done. But you have to realize that you are not the mind. And I don't mean that just on a mental level. Most students have just a mental understanding of what I am pointing you to. And I'm not here to give you knowledge. I'm here to drain you of knowledge. You spend your, at times on this path, you know what I mean, like psychological knowledge, that you can have this insatiable, just consuming self-help book after self-help book, and you're really wanting to figure out and know. And for a time that can be helpful to stabilize you on a mental level. But that's only the beginning. That's the very top. But that may help clear the way for you to get rid of the mental level completely. You don't need the mental level. You don't need the thoughts. What do you need thoughts for?
I got a text. But, as a human being, like, I for what I'm listening, I'm hearing is that I want to be the master of my mind. But my mind is the way I get to be a human, to get to do all the things that I came here to do. I didn't come here to be the awareness. I'm always going to be that. I'm in an adventure park as a human being, and my thoughts, if under control, are what allow me to do all these things, to experience good and bad and all that stuff. But if I'm hearing right, it's when the mind is running amok and deciding what we're going to do next, what ride we're going to go on next, then I'm in trouble.
Well, when you are identified as mind, okay, when you are believing yourself to be the thoughts in your mind, you know, then whatever arises in the mind affect you, okay? Give me a moment. You know, an artist will tell you that when they are creating, you know, they are creating from a place that is beyond mind. You know, just because the mind is not there doesn't mean that you're blank. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that you're like lobotomized somehow. You know, in fact, when mind is out of the way is when you are the most creative, when you are the most adventurous, because it's coming from a source that is beyond the limitations of mind. Mind is very limited. Mind is limited to the conditioning of the mind, the understanding of the mind. You know, when you see me just stop like that and close my eyes and be still, I'm not thinking. I'm void of thought. And then the answer comes. Doesn't come from mind. It does not come from. I'm not being rational with you. I'm not. You know, sharing things I read out of a book. I'm sharing with you from a direct experiencing that I am trying to describe to you in a way that you can understand from your mind-based interpretation. Trying to give you snippets of what this actual mindlessness is. You know, the moments when the thoughts subside, the self is like the sun coming out from behind the clouds. The sun is always there. The sun is always radiating in all directions. So is your nature. The clouds are the thoughts and concepts and ideas in the mind that come and obscure your nature of peacefulness, joyfulness, loving kindness, compassion, patience. Effortless, without any reason. You know, not, I need to be good because I'm going to go to hell if I don't, you know. So the question that I'm going to so annoy you with over and over again, you know, when I say I, what am I pointing to? What is aware of the conversation that you just shared? What is aware of the thoughts? What is watching this that is not thinking? The self. Who said that? So when you say the self, is that just a mental understanding that you have? No? Would you like to share sort of what you're experiencing? Can we pass the mic back? Would you? See, that's a real indication that you're having an experience. It's very hard to put into words, which is what I struggle with. But if you were to put it into words, just take a moment and just sort of be with it and see what you can share with us. Well, you said the self, right? And I asked you, is it just like a knowledge-based understanding, a mental understanding that you know the answer to that question? Or are you experiencing it directly, the self? Like in other words, you know, can you describe that experience? Can you... Do you experience moments of thoughtlessness? in that moment, is there time? In that moment, is there past? Is there future? How do you feel in that moment? Peaceful? Joyful? In that moment, do you want anything? In that moment, are you needing life to be any different than it is? All of that are functions of mind. When you go beyond the mind, the self is in boundless equanimity. The mind says, this is good experience, give me more. This is bad experience, give me less. The self is, this is just experience. There is no duality in the self. At first, it's very strange to not think about everything. But then it just becomes very natural. And one of the ways that will lead you to this thoughtless sort of presence is the elimination of past and future. 99.9% of your thoughts are about past and future. If you say, okay, I'm not going to bring my attention to any thoughts about the future or any thoughts about the past, watch what happens. Your mind is going, well, what am I supposed to do? And we've been trained into that. Future, future, past, past, future, future, past, past. And we're bouncing with our attention back and forth. Again, why? When we come to the present moment and we let go of past and we let go of future and we're just here, there's not a whole lot going on. And if there is some pain in us, it's likely that we begin to feel it. And then when that pain arises in us, pushes us back up into our, oh, what am I doing next? What am I doing? You know, there is this, it's a part of those psychological formations that I've been talking about, is not just the gangle of concepts and ideas, but the feelings and the discomfort and pain that can be associated with some of them. That pushes you back up into your mind. When you're very present in the moment, there is great peace. But we have been so trained the opposite of that. And we're so not used to it. I remember when I first really started coming into presence and staying there, it felt like irresponsible. Like, I'm not worrying about anything. I'm not, you know, I need to be thinking about it, thinking about every possible scenario that can happen for me for the rest of my life and be prepared for all of it. And, you know, it was a waste. Another tool that will help you be present in the moment is trust. God bless. I trust myself. I trust that whatever garbage my mind wants to create, whatever happens that I don't control outside of me, that I will not come off the rails. That no matter what happens in a world that is bound to impermanence and change, that I will stay present, that I will observe, even if I am in severe pain, emotional, physical pain, and that I will be present to whatever is so. And so I have no concern about going crazy inside. I have no concern about getting upset inside. I have surrendered to life. I have great acceptance of what is so. and I'm present in the moment. And as such, this me getting sucked up into my mind is a very, very rare occasion for me. That usually has to do with the girl. But other than that, I'm good. It's true, though. You know, romantic relationships attack us body, mind, and spirit. Physically, mentally, spiritually, chemically. I mean, it's rejection buttons. All you know, you want to learn, you want to get on the spiritual path, go get in a relationship. Because that will bend you and stretch you in ways that nothing else really can. Yeah, we did a whole satsang on rejection, and it was a, what was it? Microphone.
The Surgeon General said it was like a study they did in like 2006 or something like that, or 2009, and it said that in kids that rejection was more of a cause for violence than drugs, alcohol, or even gang affiliation.
Yeah, gang membership. If you're being rejected, you're more likely to be violent than if you were in a gang. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that was a cool satsang. I think that's on the website, on the blog. It was written by a guy named Guy Widge, in a PhD in California. Yeah, and you see that, you know, we see that nowadays. You know, in very plain terms. You know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there are subtle to very blatant forms of rejection, you know?
Get out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, and all of that, though, I mean, the difficulty with rejection is that rejection creates great pain. Because if you ever read this article, it is on the website at peacefulminds.org. There's a blog. I think I call it the wisdom page or something. I don't know, but you can just type in the search. There's a search box there. Type in rejection, and there's a couple of articles there. I encourage you to read them because they are really eye-opening. You know, and so what they're saying though is that we evolved in tribes. You know, and that if you were ostracized from the tribe, that was like a death sentence, you know. So the people that evolved and survived were the ones that experienced, when they started to feel being pushed out, feeling rejected, developed a lot of discomfort about that and a lot of internal pain. So rejection is, you know, they're the ones that stayed in the tribe and survived. So rejection is something that really kind of got wired into us. And so when we get rejected, we feel pain. When we feel pain, we get sucked back up into our mind, and it's just a mess. It is, I'm going to say this to you 1,000,000 times, and I want you to recognize this in yourself. We are different people when we are in pain. Our mind is different. We perceive different. We behave differently. Things that were easy, getting up, making breakfast, making the bed. When you're in pain, it's like, you know, yeah, and it's just hard. It's like you're going uphill into the wind with a bag of bricks on your back.
And that article also said that rejection, that you're wired in your brain in the pain pathways that the electrical impulses travel on. The rejection actually piggybacks them and goes in the exact same places that pain does.
Yep.
Fascinating article.
Yeah, fascinating. And you know, so when you're feeling rejection, you know, like it's really interesting to have knowledge about that, to really understand, like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, wow, this is why I'm so off the rails, you know? So interesting. So interesting.
But just that little bit of awareness helps.
You know, this is what we're really wanting to do in here, and this is really why I'm wanting your questions and your feedback, is because we're really trying to, you know, what I'm instructing you to do is to bring consciousness to the unconscious. You know, these states that we are experiencing inside that we do not want to experience are happening unconsciously. When we bring our consciousness to them, when we just sit and be aware of them, be aware of the feelings, be aware of the thoughts that are attached to the feelings, be aware of what your mind is doing, you're immediately starting to pull it apart. You are making conscious that which is unconscious. And you would never consciously create that state for yourself. You would never consciously create that state for yourself. Even if you can't change it, you can have peace with it. If something happens outside of you that is terrible, that you just can't accept, and it's stirring you up inside, and you're just tied in knots, and you're feeling terrible, then you accept the inner state that you're experiencing. Then you just accept it. And you don't resist it. Because you're human. You're going to experience that stuff sometimes. But it's how you manage it. You know, with awareness, with consciousness, there is peace. Sadness is not suffering. You experience a loss, it's sad. You're not going to be happy in that moment, but you can have peace in that moment. You can have peace with your sadness. Oh, you were looking for something else? Would you have a question? Oh, okay. You know. Okay. Mm. I'm instructing you to practice, and these satsangs are on Facebook. I am slowly getting them onto the YouTube channel. I will eventually be pulling the meditations out and mounting those, but you can fast forward to our meditations here so that you can hear the same meditations that we're doing, feel the same energy that we're feeling here. And I'm going to be doing more and more in 2019 to create tools for you to use, because the way that you will begin to truly experience the self is in your practice. You come to satsang to practice and to gain understanding. And the energy here, particularly at the Duncan Center, the energy in this group, you may find that you have very quiet moments here. You know, you may find that just you're able to slip away from mind and just sit as the presence here in the group, which is good. You know, because the more that you experience it, the more you will start to get comfortable in it. You know, when I first started, you know, it was really uncomfortable to be without mind. Like, it was a really weird, how could I even describe it? I felt so like I was floating in outer space, and I'm like, didn't know if I could come back. And you know, it's, you know, when you're going from a mind identified state to transcending the mind, it's a little trippy.
It's almost like you don't know
Yeah. What was that? Yeah. You come back, and when you say you come back, you're coming back into mind, and then you were like, yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. And then your tendency is to think about it, you know, which I don't encourage you to do. Yeah, you're thinking, right, how did I do that? You know, how can I do it again? Yeah. Yeah. When you're remembering it, you're not exactly reliving it. You know what I mean? You're remembering it, but when you're in it, it's different. There is, it's very easy for me to do that now. It's very easy for me. Most of the time, I am just present in the moment, and thoughts are something that I don't have a lot of interest in. And it's a very unique way of living as a human being. But all the other beings beside human beings are living that way. It's only us human beings that are lost in past and future. I ask my cat what time it is, and he just looks at me. He knows when it's time to eat somehow, but you experience time differently. Even time is not constant, which Albert Einstein, who I've studied a bit, absolutely brilliant guy. I don't know how he was seeing what he was seeing, but Albert Einstein even talked about, that when I'm working on problems, I'm not thinking about them. And even downloading, I don't know exactly, you know what I mean, like that, but somehow that inspiration comes from a place beyond mind, and the real geniuses are the ones that are beyond mind. That information comes from a different place. And it's an interesting thing. The mind is in the way. The mind is a wonderful tool to use, but the mind is not you. The thoughts are not you, and all of these psychological formations that we are suffering are optional. Are absolutely optional. Your practice is very important, and I'm really strongly encouraging you to develop a ritualistic, particularly morning practice, so you set your mind up for the day. And guess who reaps the rewards of that? You do. Imagine if you got up every morning and exercised a little bit, meditated for 20 minutes, had a healthy breakfast, made sure your house was clean, and then went on your day. How do you think your days would be? As opposed to getting up, having a cup of coffee with sugar and a donut, you know what I mean, and laying around, and, you're setting your mind up to struggle all day. And it's, why?
Getting in a fight with a crossing guard.
Yeah, yeah. Or getting in a fight in your own mind, Yeah. Yeah. By 1 o'clock, I'll be crying in the corner, sucking my thumb, rocking, I'm going to... Go ahead.
I find what you're saying very true, because I haven't been here in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it was because I was out of town, or sometimes because it was dark,
Yeah.
But, and I'm noticing right now, I'm going like at least half of the things that I was doing religiously, although that's probably a bad word.
Ritualistic.
Ritualistically, I haven't done. And I'm like, all right, tomorrow we have to reset a lot of that stuff. And it's easy for it to just kind of little by little. It's not like a big accident. It's just like, your alignment's off just a little bit.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you're in the wrong lane. You're in oncoming traffic.
Yeah. It is so easy to get knocked out of your rituals, which is why you've got to keep working at it and keep practicing, because, believe it or not, you have rituals now. You are very practiced at not being the person that you want to be, not living life the way you want to. You're very practiced at that, and it's ingrained in you. So you have to make a list. The Zen list is like training wheels. You know what I mean? So that you get up every day and you do it. The more that you do it, the more ingrained it gets in you, and the more it gets done. It's very, very important that you have a practice and your practice gets done. It's very important. The realizations happen, in practice. and you start to have these moments of real silence, and then what happens is you start to get comfortable in them. And then as you get comfortable in them, it's just that becomes normal, and the old way of being is just like completely annoying and not normal anymore. It's really incredible what can happen. And I am here every week on purpose for you to come back, to practice, to get your questions answered, because that's what you need. You're not going to come here once or twice and be like, okay, I get it, and then go home and do it. Stay connected. Come with your questions. If you're practicing, you're going to have questions. If you're practicing, you're going to have questions. Bring those questions here. I will answer them for you. Very important. If you're having some, problem in life, that you're finding is just pulling you right off the rails, bring that here. Let's work on it. Tom, this happened, that happened, my mind is doing this. What do I do? That's what this is for, because I want you to understand your mind. When you come here, you understand your mind. You try to you understand what your mind is doing. I've been studying it for 25 years. I can save you a lot of time. I mean that. And therapy, right? Yeah, go ahead. Can you have a mic for?
Past about my abusive boss, and it's been going on for 2 months now, and it's been worse in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So for the last 5 days, every day, 100 times a day, he comes into my head, and I hear him yelling at me, and I hear him saying horrible things, and I hear him saying things that he hasn't even said. These dramas.
Isn't that charming?
And I don't know whether to shine the flashlight on it and pick it apart like you said, or just take my attention away from it, because every day it's happening 100 times a day, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah, when you're aware that it's there, you want to take your attention away from it. If you are in an abusive situation, there's only a couple of things that you can do. You know what I mean? You can get out of it, right? You can try to change it, or you can accept it. Okay, and abusive is a very broad term here, okay? I'm not suggesting anybody stay in a physically abusive place or anything like that. But he is more of just a boss that is... Yeah. Yeah. Right. See, what does it have to do with you? Right. And the part of you that gets offended by that is what part? Begins with an E and ends in an O. Just
listen, I know that what I've been trying to do is look at it from a spiritual point of view, that this is testing me. My reaction to it, to see him as just a puppet in my play. Look at myself, not him. But you don't want to be a doormat either.
Yes, you see, but listen. Do you know Sadhguru? You hear me talk about him one time. Someone asked Sadhguru one time what his definition of success was, and I thought this was brilliant. I'll share it with you. He said, success is being in the world, but being unaffected by it. So if this person is affecting you and affecting you and affecting you, he's pointing to something, you know what I mean, where you get hooked. I'm being belittled, I'm being this, I'm being that. All of that is in the mind. Who cares? Eckhart Tolle would recommend that pretend like you're invisible and just let it flow through you. Nothing to catch, nothing to grab onto. Who cares what he says?
It's later, when I'm by myself, that I keep replaying things, so I don't know whether to shine the light or turn the light away from it.
It's probably both. If it is creating some pain in you, You know, be very meticulous about this. If it is creating some pain in you, you may want to observe the pain, because that pain is not related to what's happening right then. That is pain that has come from a lifetime of experience. Could be all the way back to childhood, you know? And so sometimes if you have something in the moment triggering some pain from the past, some childhood pain or teenage pain or wherever, that's an opportunity for you to bring consciousness to that pain and let go of that pain. You know? Some person is behaving some certain way and I'm feeling this way. Well, I don't want to feel this way. What is this about? You know, what is going on? And you bring consciousness to it. Not to torture yourself. You know, don't torture yourself. But you just be aware of the sensations that are going on. You're being aware of what the mind-body is generating in the face of this person. Okay? And then, and see what happens. Do you see what I mean? Do you understand the process?
Yeah.
You know, because whenever something is agitating you, whenever something is poking something in you, there's something for you to see there. Probably has something to do with your, perhaps your core belief system about yourself. Rejection. You know what I mean? And you don't need to be too cognitive about it, okay? Because the idea is that probably what is happening is that if you're at home and you're thinking about it, those thoughts are probably being provoked by some pain. When I talk to students about pain, students don't want to talk about pain. They're like, no, I'm not in pain. I'm feeling a little bit discomfort, but I'm not feeling pain. Listen, it's pain. Pain is a spectrum, okay, for sure. But it's pain, and call it pain. It's pain. Our human pain, okay? And when that pain, that's the part that I want you to be with. The thoughts, that's an endless hole, you know what I mean? But when you start to look at the pain, why do I feel pain about the way this other person is behaving? Do you know what I mean? Yes. And just try to be with that. Sometimes there can be connections to thoughts that you link, and all of a sudden, bzzz, and it just disappears.
What I often try and do is send him what he's lacking. When I think of him, I surround him with love, and I send him love and forgiveness. That he's just, himself. And I send him empathy and love, just all the things that he is lacking. But,
Compassion.
and then but compassion. But like I would say once every other day, I'm like, like F you, and like, I hate you. Can't you just drop dead already? And
there are two different things there. One, clearly this is a person who is suffering, and their suffering is spilling out onto you. So when we can see that as suffering, compassion is wonderful practice in body, speech, and mind, right? That's different, though. You know what I mean? Like when you're home and your mind is beating the drum and there's some pain coming up in you, it's a real opportunity for you to look at that pain and to transmute that pain, to let go of that pain. It's a real opportunity to do that. Because if that pain wasn't there, this wouldn't bother you and it wouldn't pull you back up into your mind. This is a great example of what I'm talking about when I say someone, you have a difficult boss, which is, I'm sure, mildly putting it, right? And that triggers some pain in you. And then the pain, kind of takes over your mind and sucks you back up into your mind. And now you're having all these negative thoughts. And he's home eating a cheeseburger and you're home all upset. You know what I mean? And like, what is going on? This is not something that I want to create for myself. So you know that you're not doing that consciously, and I'm inviting you to bring consciousness to it, particularly bringing consciousness to the pain. And the way that I do that is I'll lay back on the couch and I'll close my eyes and I'll just really be very much aware of the pain. Instead of like running from the pain, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm really diving into it, and you notice these very strange energies and this weird feelings, and you don't even know what they are or where they come from, but they're not as scary when you are present to them and bring your consciousness to them. They're very scary when you run and hide from them, and they will chase you to the end of the earth. The moment you turn around, they stop. So bring your consciousness to, you see. Make sense? Make sense?